Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make easy cheesecake bars. Hey Sugar Spun bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Today we are making super simple and delicious cheesecake bars. Now the first thing you want to do is go ahead and get your oven preheating to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Next we will make our graham cracker crust. This is super simple to make. We're going to start by combining 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs with 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar and 1 tablespoon of firmly packed light brown sugar. We'll stir these ingredients together until they're completely combined, and then we're going to add 7 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, and we'll stir everything together until all of the graham cracker crumbs are nicely moistened. Now we'll be baking today's cheesecake bars in a 9-inch square pan. You could place the crumbs directly into the pan, but one thing I like to do is line mine with parchment paper. And then I'll add the crumbs and I'll tamp them down in an even layer. I like to use the clean bottom of a measuring cup till I have a nice even layer of crust. Again, the parchment paper is not necessary, but one reason I like to use it is because after the bars have completely cooled and are ready to enjoy, you can use the parchment paper to easily lift the bars out of the pan and easily cut them on a cutting board. And also, the parchment paper will shrink with the cheesecake as it cools, and it'll prevent any cracks on the surface. If you don't have the parchment and the cheesecake is right up against the sides of the pan, sometimes cracks can occur from the tension of the cheesecake sticking as it cools and shrinks. All right, now we'll set this aside. You do not need to bake the crust in advance. It's just gonna sit on the counter while we prepare our filling, and we'll prepare our cheesecake filling. Now for today's recipe, we're going to be using 24 ounces of softened cream cheese. This is full-fat brick-style cream cheese. That's going to give you the best results. Now along with the cream cheese, we'll add 1 cup of granulated sugar. And you could use a stand mixer for today's recipe, but today I'm just going to be using my electric hand mixer. And we'll cream together the cream cheese and sugar until everything is smooth, creamy, and lump-free. You will want to pause and scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure everything's nicely combined. One thing I really try to avoid is any lumps in my cream cheese, so scraping the bowl periodically helps with that. All right, the next thing you're going to need is 1/2 cup of full-fat sour cream and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we'll stir these in as well until everything's nicely combined. And we're just gonna pause and scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure everything's nicely combined. All right, the next thing you need is 3 large eggs, and ideally these should be at room temperature. Now we're going to add them one at a time to the cheesecake batter, and I like to crack them in a small bowl and then use a fork to lightly beat them before stirring them into the cheesecake batter. As I said, we'll add them one at a time, and we're going to stir until just combined after each addition. Overbeating cheesecake batter, especially overbeating the eggs in a cheesecake batter, can give you a weird texture, a funny consistency instead of the nice creamy one we're looking for, so just take it easy with the eggs. And then I want to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl again just to make sure everything is completely combined. All right, now we can go ahead and pour this over our graham cracker crust. I like to smooth that out. We'll take this over to our preheated oven where it's going to need to bake for about 35 minutes. Now when your cheesecake is finished baking, you can tell it's done because it shouldn't be super liquidy in the center if you jostle it, but if you jiggle it a little bit, you'll notice the center jiggles as well. It just doesn't look like liquid though. You may also notice that the edges of your crust or the edges of your cheesecake may be slightly puffed. They may just be beginning to turn a light golden brown, and they may even have some small, lightly puffed cracks in them as well. We're going to let our cheesecake cool at room temperature for about an hour, and then we'll pop it in the fridge where it's going to need to cool completely. It'll take about 6 hours, or preferably I like to leave mine in the fridge overnight before it is completely set. Now once your cheesecake bars have finished chilling, they are ready to serve immediately, but one thing I love to do is top mine off with chocolate ganache. Now this is super simple to make. I'm just going to measure out 4 ounces of chocolate in a heat-proof mixing bowl. Now for the chocolate, you can use chocolate chips, which are my least favorite to use, or a chopped chocolate bar, or chocolate callets, which is what I'm using today. Now you'll need a small saucepan, and I'm just going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream to the saucepan, and over medium-low heat, I want to get that cream steaming, might even bring it to a simmer. So you can see this is nice and hot. I think you can see from the bubbles there. So once it is, I'm going to remove it from the heat, and I'm just going to immediately evenly pour it over my chocolate. Now I'll cover this with foil, and I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, remove the foil, and we're just going to gently whisk everything together until you have a beautiful, smooth chocolate ganache. Now I do have some cheesecake bars I prepared in advance because the one we just made is not ready yet. So this cheesecake's been chilling in the fridge overnight, or cheesecake bars. So I'm just going to add my ganache right over that while it's still warm. And just use an offset spatula to smooth it out. And I'll let this ganache firm up before I cut into the bars. Now because I use the parchment paper, I can easily lift these out and onto a cutting board. And now we can go ahead and dig in. And that is how you make these amazing, delicious, and as you saw, super simple cheesecake bars. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe, and if you try this one out, please leave me a comment. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So good.